I've been waiting for this moment for some time now.
I just watched the first 3 episodes of Reacher Season 3, and the condensed version is that I thought it was really good. I had very few complaints and found a lot in there to recommend it, so if you've never watched Reacher and you like action and a manly protagonist, maybe give it a go. I said in a recent video that I couldn't think of much I was looking forward to in entertainment this year, but I tried to be positive, and I did think of a couple of things. I'm a little bit hopeful for Daredevil Born Again, fingers crossed they don't F it up, maybe get a bit more Jon Bernthal Punisher. And well, there's Reacher. Reacher has just started up again, and this series has the opposite problem for me of the recent Captain America film Brave New World. This is written before I watched Season 3 of Reacher, and I'm going to struggle with being objective for Reacher because my expectations may be too high going in. You know, I may go in expecting too much, because I really liked Season 1, though the end was maybe a bit of an anticlimax, and I still like Season 2, but maybe found it a bit weaker than 1. And that's how I'm coming into Season 3. And what are we getting? 8 episodes. Only 8 episodes again, and 3 releasing the same day. Now recently I've been rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer with mixed results. The fights in Season 1 and 2 are really quite bad.
No! Hey!
And there's a ludicrous amount of kissing, but I really like the episode where Xander the teenager does the love spell and every woman in town except the one he wanted falls madly and very aggressively in love with him. I find it great fun. All the actresses get to do their best portrayals of being seductive, and frankly, oh Miss Calendar. Buffy was a weird show and was mostly 22 episodes a season, so it was 1 episode a week for maybe 6 months, and they knocked out 7 seasons in 7 years. But at this rate, Reacher will be gone again in a few weeks, probably for over a year based on the past season. I know Reacher episodes tend to be a bit longer, but damn! I mean, at least it's tended to be high quality, and they've left the audience wanting more, but I'm not sure that always holds true. Because what if you go to a Chinese restaurant and they give you 1 extremely tasty grain of rice? In that case, I'm not sure the saying, "at least they left people wanting more," really counts any longer. There's maybe a happy medium where you're neither giving the audience too much or leaving them starving. So with 3 episodes of Reacher Season 3 releasing on one day, I sat down to watch the first one, and yeah, I thought it was really good. At first I thought I saw some plot problems in there, but the story itself covers them up later. There are things I don't like so much about Reacher as a character. One of those things is that he's an absolute trouble magnet in this show, to the extent it strains believability. How can I explain it? Well, if you take a show like The X-Files, that show makes sense that they end up in all these wacky adventures. They work for the FBI and get called out specifically whenever something weird happens. But one problem with Reacher as a story is how you get him to where he needs to be in the story. And this one opens up with him stumbling into an attempted abduction. This gets explained later that he was not there by accident, but the whole story still relies on the coincidence of him just running into an old enemy entirely randomly. That's not ideal, but Alan Ritchson, who plays Reacher, has got himself in just amazing shape for this show. He's an absolute unit. He's 6'3" tall and he looks about 4 foot wide, and that's kind of a problem when at one point in the story he has to climb out of a window, hang on to some guttering, and I'm left thinking as I watch this, that may be the most robust guttering I've ever seen. It somehow survives this mountain of a man slamming into it, and it doesn't even move. And after watching episode 1 of season 3, I thought, is there even enough material here to do a full review of this show? It was just really good, and it's probably going to be boring me talking about just how good it was for 10 minutes. I don't know what to say. My expectations were high going in, and the show still met them. I'm shocked. It was maybe as good as season 1 while not even being repetitive. I just found it to be a really well written and thought out story, a bit predictable in places, because they somehow found someone even more massive than Alan Ritchson. They found some Dutch guy who is approaching the size of a family car. He's called Olivia Richters and he's 7'2" tall. That's 218 centimetres for metric people, and he looks about 5 foot wide. What an absolute ogre. What the hell are Dutch people putting in their schnert? And the problem with that is that I took one look at this monster of a man and thought, there's no way this guy and Reacher are not going to fight at some point in this story. This could literally not be any more predictable, and yet I'm still here for it. So after episode 1 I had to think, and then immediately I watched episodes 2 and 3. Alan Ritchson still doesn't really make sense as Reacher in some ways for me. I said this in my review of episode 1, I think, because the show tries to sell the audience the idea that this guy lives on the road, eating candy bars, and never exercising seriously. In season 3, the cottage-sized Dutchman aggressively challenges Reacher to a bench pressing contest, and Reacher says he never does bench presses. It's a waste of time. The show seriously expects me to believe that this guy has never seen the inside of a gym, when in reality he looks like he barely sees the outside of one. They also maybe could have done a bit more build-up on the giant Dutch guy as an antagonist. He gets described as a bully and being sadistic in the story, but it comes in the form of exposition, which is not ideal. It had a bit of a weird cast. Reacher has to go undercover inside a criminal gang in this story. That's new, and at first, it seems like the gang is being led by a grown-up Rusty Griswold from the National Lampoon's movies. And then who turns up? Only a channel favourite, the guy who played Guy Gisborne in the truly awful Canadian TV show Robin Hood that I reviewed. This guy has in the last few years gone from one of the worst things I have ever seen. Robin Hood is sitting on a 1 out of 10 on IMDb. That's lower than either Madam Web or Velma. That's lower than the film Manos the Hands of Fate, and I'm not sure it was even quite that bad. But the man has gone from that to being in a truly great show, and I couldn't be more happy for him. Sadly, he didn't bring the actress who played Coco in that show with him, because she was an awful lot of woman. But on the whole, the acting is fine, the story is good, and I found it all very compelling. So in short, if you haven't yet, maybe give Reacher a chance. I'm not even going to do spoilers because I want people to watch this show and enjoy it. There's a lot of action, intrigue, it's quite violent, but it occurs to me that it may be a thing that will appeal more to men than women. Alan Ritchson takes his clothes off quite a bit, if that will tempt you ladies. He may be a bit too muscular for some of you. He'll probably be a bit too devastating for the guys who like guys, because damn, he has quite the physique. Frankly, he's making the rest of us look bad. And I say this about Reacher because it appears Amazon just bought the rights to the Bond films, and nobody on YouTube seems to be welcoming that idea in the slightest. In fact, the response to this seems to be almost universal horror, and while I understand the wariness, I'm going to put out what may turn out to be an unpopular opinion. I know. This comes at the risk of getting messages from weirdos again, saying things like this genuine message I recently got. Bottom fetter being bottom fetter, laughing crying face. I think they were trying to call me a bottom feeder, but I'm still not entirely sure. But my controversial take is, I'm going to reserve judgment about this buyout by Amazon. Firstly, because recent Bond movies have not exactly shook my world. There's seemingly been a push to make the films more feminist, and I'm not even sure how we've got to a place where censoring books is seen by many as being a good thing, because yay for censorship, I guess. And Bond is a film series that's close to my heart. I think I've watched them all, apart from the latest one, most of them many times, and this should maybe tell you how much they lost me. The latest one was a Bond film with Ana de Armas in it, in that dress, and I still didn't bother to watch it. Secondly, Amazon Studios are a broad church. There's Amazon Studios proper, but Amazon Studios also own MGM, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. They bought it in May 2021 for a reported $8.5 billion. And I've reviewed for this channel Amazon's The Rings of Power, and I didn't like it. I thought it was horrible. That series was from Amazon Studios, but I've also reviewed the series Reacher, and that I liked a lot. And that was also from Amazon, but that came out of Amazon at MGM, and a collaboration with the production company Skydance. Skydance have worked on a lot of film projects, with, for me, quite mixed results. They've worked on a lot of the recent Mission Impossible movies with Tom Cruise that I quite liked. I quite enjoyed Mission Impossible Fallout. I also gave quite a nice review to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I seem to remember. They also worked on Top Gun Maverick, that I didn't watch, but lots of people seem to like. And I just watched the first 3 episodes of Season 3 of Reacher and really enjoyed them. The writing was very solid, so my enthusiasm for Amazon's Bond project is going to depend largely on which part of Amazon is making it. And from the reporting, it appears it's going to be MGM, the studio that works on Reacher, that's going to be making the Bond movies. And if they manage to keep the same spirit that Reacher is made in to make Bond movies, they could turn out to be really good. So just to make this all as crystal clear as I can, just so there's no ambiguity at all, here are the takeaways from this video. Maybe consider watching Reacher. I really enjoyed it and you may do as well. I'm not sure James Bond being made by the same people that make Reacher is necessarily a bad thing, and just because it's Amazon doesn't mean it's going to get Jeff Bezos all over it. Am I saying Amazon James Bond will be good? No, it could be awful when it comes out. They could make the series even worse. Am I saying it will be bad? No, it could be average, it could be great. They could make it better than it currently is. I'm saying I'm going to reserve judgment, cross my fingers and hope they don't F it up.
If you only knew the power of one, the power of two, the power of many.